Scontasini per Nedved, Pirlo, la conclusione in rete, Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco, Del Piero, gol! Alex Del Piero! Di Pogacar, Pogba, rete, un gol incredibile, Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Turin Giants. This is our live Sassuolo Juventus post-game. We are joined by many people in chat. We got people in South Australia. We got people from Indonesia. We got people from Australia. And, of course, we're joined in Belgium by my good friend, Frederic, who is battling the elements but still wanted to be here anyways. My man, Frey, how's it going?
I'm I think I'm dying, to be honest. I have the flu so severely. It's really like, take me now, Father. But we're pulling through, and I wouldn't miss this for the world, especially not after today's game and a couple of scoop messages in the end, if you don't mind, if I can add that on, Zach.
Oh, absolutely. And there's no better medicine than a 3-0 comfortable victory, especially in light of our last performance. Guys, keep pouring on your locations. We know this is a global show. We got Ireland. Mitch, I said Austria. I know Austria is different than Australia, no matter what you've heard about American education. We've got Switzerland, where I spent my honeymoon. Love it. Canada. Keep pouring in, everybody. We love to hear it. And we love to be here after a resounding win. But let's be real. Let's take a step back, Frederic, because coming into this game, there was a lot of storylines after that Lecce game. One, David's penalty miss, Cambiasso another bad performance. You're coming into the Mappe where playing away is never easy, but Sassuolo's 10th, despite their recent form. You have to respect every opponent. Lecce told us that. Romo, that's the combination of Rome and Como. They both won earlier today, putting pressure on us for standing on the table. And I think from a narrative perspective, or just from a mentality perspective, it was really important that we bounce back from that draw against Lecce, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Spalletti had his work cut out for him. From what I've heard, he spent the whole day after where he gave a training session where he normally doesn't. But the training session wasn't as exhausting as you thought it would be. He spent a lot of time talking to the players and talking to the team, not only in general but also individually. And if we look at not only today, but the basis of the work that Spalletti has been doing since his arrival, then once again, I mean, hats off to him just for the change in mentality, the change in ferociousness, I think. And it's for me, it's very comforting to see that we have a coach that has an impact. We had coaches with a lot of negative impact surrounding everything that was Juventus. Now we have somebody due to his experience, and I think his life experience as well, manages to handle that very well and put some guidance in these players. And then, lo and behold, we're able to scrape together some decent results. So I honestly think that it's time to applaud Spalletti.
Well, let's stop there, because we're going to talk about sort of the Spalletti's influence on this game and a lot of the players. The locations are pouring in. We've got the Netherlands. We've got Montreal, Canada. Del Piero 109's down here with me in Texas, Dubai, Virginia. So we love to see it. I know Mikkel's joined us. I believe he is from Denmark. So we are all over the place today, joined together. And we really appreciate that you would spend your time wherever you are in the world, especially for people on the other side of the world where the time zone isn't always the most ideal, to join us and to collectively debrief and enjoy this 3-0 victory. So you talked about Spalletti, his influence. We talked David a little bit on where we left that last game. When you saw him on the team sheet to start this game, do you think that was one? Do you think that was appropriate? Was that something you would have done? And two, kind of trying to take ourselves away from the benefit of hindsight. Obviously, had a great game. Was that a confidence masterclass from Spalletti, or was that a huge risk?
It was a bit of both. I think I felt that David needed to be put in that position where he felt that he was still important, because you lose a lot of confidence after some of the games that he's been playing, not only the Lecce one. So I think Spalletti, pulled something out of his hat there, gave him some confidence. But on the other hand as well, I mean, it's not like he's drowning in substitutions either. You could put a Openda there, but I think, with this Sassuolo, granted they weren't up to par today, but the way they've been playing this season would have been a very difficult game for Openda to find space, and we'd still be lacking a proper finisher. So it was a mix of both, I think. But this is a typical Spalletti move. If he likes a player, believes in a player, then he'll go through the fire for them. And today it paid off. And I want to say I'm very happy for David, for the team, for everybody. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because it's still a long way to go, and we still seen some abysmal performances by David in the past. So I'm very happy for him, but I hope he continues this way. But from my perspective, David today was another player that the one I saw on the pitch in the past several weeks. So good job on good job on.
No player is going to flip the script. Now over 20 games across all competitions into the season just with one game. But any player to flip the script has to have a game like today, right? And I think whether David goes on a run of form now, it will be determined very shortly. We don't have a crystal ball, but I think you couldn't ask for anything better from a player to get a game like today to say, hey, all those rumors, all that nonsense, that penalty stuff, maybe we can put that in the past if he's going to play like this moving forward.
Yeah.
A lot of people are posting in the chat, and I forgot to mention it earlier, but Kevin will be joining us. He was out at a bar enjoying the game, and he will be joining us to help debrief some of this very shortly, I'm sure. And again, I was going to say about the chat, a lot of people are posting who is the best player. I think we've seen David, Locatelli, Miretti in chat. We will be discussing man of the match, as well as throughout what players we felt did well. I think everyone did degrees of good today, Frederic, but people, please continue to put who you think was the best player in the chat, and we revisit that when we get to that point in the show. I want to kind of go sequentially through the game, because one common factor that we've seen in a lot of our performances is that we do not give complete performances, Frederic. Today might be the exception. But with that in mind, I do want to take first half before we get into the second half. After the Lecce game, I was a little bit concerned 5 minutes into this one, because we were playing really sloppy, weren't we?
Yeah. I also feel that it was a bit of a nervous beginning from our part, which is completely normal, because no matter how you twist or turn it, the Lecce game still remains like a big cloud over your head, and it's difficult to throw that off, especially, and people underestimate that the cold. It was -3 today, and I don't know if people ever played football in -3 for 90 minutes. At points, at times, it really hurts, because you need to keep your blood flowing in order to keep your muscles warm. The minute you stop, even for like, what is it, 30 seconds, everything just cramps up. You feel the wind tearing in your face, every fall, every ball that you get to your body, or even limbs from other players, or pushes or shoves or whatever, they hurt like 1,000 times more. Also, you're gasping for breath, and the air being so cold, it at times hurts when you have to go deep. it's not ideal conditions, especially not if you're not used to it. So I think it was a mixture of those two things. And luckily, because Spalletti was screaming frantically during the first 15 minutes to get the team to be a bit more assembled and follow his lead a bit more, we pulled through and we started to gain confidence. We started to gain pace, which is very important for us. So I'd say that was the build up to our first,
Well,
dare I say it, lucky goal.
Well, no, well, we're going to talk about that, and I want to bring in our local correspondent, who today is in his hotel room as opposed to walking the streets of Torino like he was in the last episode. But he joins us at the operative time. We're at the first goal, 16th minute. Kevin, not to spring it on you as your first thing. Welcome. We have a great audience here from across the globe. We did a little bit earlier talked about where everyone is, and pretty much everyone's everywhere. And so we feel real humbled. I feel really humbled to have y'all with us. Why don't you walk us through that first goal? And we're not going to answer quite yet whether it was lucky. Let's go through the facts of what happened. But then we're going to get real quickly of whether it was a product of our influence or whether Muharamovic was truly a double agent.
He was just trying to help us out. Del Piero 109, thank you. I appreciate the welcome. Pleasure to be here. It is quite cold. I'm going to leave my scarf on for just a bit. It's freezing here in Turin. That was a nice, well-earned goal. I mean, I think the progressive play in the first half built up to that. I think Sassuolo, if they had their first three shots, I mean, not on target, but just within the first kind of 5 or 10 minutes, and then completely disappeared for the rest of the game. But leading up to the goal in the 16th minute, you have Cambiaso, who picked up the ball, and then some nice interplay from across, I think, everybody within the midfield and getting out to Kalulu, who, instead of, to his credit, just trying to cut the ball back and play it centrally, which we seem to do when we get it out on the right side, and cut the ball back and try and either restart the play, just went for a cross into the box and benefited from it, right? And you benefit from opportunities you take, from being proactive. And we saw, and I know we're just getting started here, but we saw some really positive play in that game. And I'm really quite happy with where we are. But yes, did we get some luck on it? Of course. But did we put ourselves in the position to be lucky? Yes.
But that last point's what I want to focus in on, because whenever there's an own goal, obviously there's a dose of luck. But when you put in those aggressive low crosses and you have the forward and the center back both sliding to block it and it gets deflected in, we're always here saying, oh, well, that was just a fantastic attacking move from Juventus. Of course, dose of luck, but majority of it goes to the attacking move. Frederic, how much credit do you give the attacking move on that first goal? And you're muted, my friend.
I'm sorry. It was due to me blowing my nose earlier. Well, it was the basic moves that we have known for some games now. Of course, it was followed up by a typical Kalulu cross. In my opinion, that cross wasn't going anywhere. Muharamovic reacted instinctively, which I can understand. What I can't understand is why the keeper was so far off his line for that cross. Because for me, he holds more to blame than Muharamovic in that goal. But it was one of those typical Juve attacks. And, I didn't really have much hope for it because Kalulu was crossing and we didn't have any weight in the box at that point. So to say it was lucky, I don't know. I think it was more of a keeper error than combined with a Muharamovic error than luck. But I think we deserved the goal at that point. We were threatening. We were picking up the pace and the tempo. So it was bound to happen. I'm happy that it did because we saw what happened in the Lecce game.
I mean, I will say this about Muric, though. He had a very good game, just like keepers tend to have against us. He was coming out aggressively on every play, though. And if to kind of defend his positioning, Frederic, I think he was trying to make a play on the cross because it seemed to be his game plan is to. I mean, he shoved over his own player to get a ball at one point. Like he was going to attack the ball in the box. That was his plan, and
that was also
that's what ultimately bit him, right?
That was our game plan as well, because that's what Kalulu said during halftime, that it was something that they train on because they know that Muric came out of his goal and was very aggressive, and that also explains, the far crosses made by Cambiaso, especially in the second half, which we'll get to. So I think that was something that was well thought out of by Spalletti, and we took advantage of that with a tad of luck, but I'm happy to take those goals.
Back to Kevin, because he kind of alluded to really good patterns of play. Certainly in that first half, shedding the first 5-minute ugliness where Sassuolo seemed to be somewhat dangerous. It seemed to me like a lot of the success of our team was tied to our ability to win the ball in the midfield. Was that your takeaway from the first half? And who, if anybody, was really operative in your view at controlling the manner by which we played in that first half?
I don't know if you're right. So first and foremost, I agree with you that we saw better pressing from the team than we've seen in other matches. And fast forwarding to the end, and then I'll come back to the question. I mean, this was the first, dare I say, like kind of easy win that we've had in a very, very long time. I mean, I know now this is what eight wins in the last 10 matches, but all of them, for the most part, like we've really had to work for it. And seeing the midfield play in a way that won the ball back quickly, possessed it well, did not make really any meaningful individual mistakes, and played proactively. If I were to say one person or one player that really stood out, I just think everybody was doing their job. Like, I don't think there was any notable star performance. The only thing I will note is that, and I'm sure we'll talk about him a bit more, is Miretti's performance. He seemed to have command of space and where to be in anticipation of where the ball was going, and gave the team a much different complexion than maybe what would have been out there if Chico was playing. I still think we would have won this game if Chico had started. But Miretti gave something different that you don't see from Locatelli or Thuram, and that was really nice to see. We don't always get that from him.
Yeah, with Chico, you see he wants to drift out wide, which then causes McKennie to have to do more work coming up from the back to slot into the midfield to then do those interchanges with David. But in my opinion, Frederic, Miretti, as much as I like McKennie and I have said I want him to be extended and he does all the stuff for us, I think Miretti's got a better touch than McKennie. We just haven't seen the form, to use maybe my term of the day, from Miretti on any consistent basis, or the playtime on any consistent basis to kind of infer that he has what we saw today in his locker, right?
Yeah, I think we all agreed. I think it was last season when we thought that Miretti is maybe just not good enough for Juventus of ages like we used to know, which I still feel. But in this current Juventus, and maybe even a level up, Miretti, if given a bit of consistency, a bit of playing time, could well be somebody who makes the difference in our midfield. And you saw that today just by the way he moved. He was always in between the lines, defensively, attackingly. He was always looking for an attacking option, even when he was pressed. He always tried to find the free man instead of playing it back, which was our main flaw for a number of seasons, because that was our standard go-to playbook style that we had. And now you see, them playing with a lot more aggressivity, a bit more ballsy and build up. And it pays off, especially when you defend as a team as well, because Locatelli filled in perfectly for Miretti at certain times. He was chasing duels and helping McKennie defensively in order for Miretti to have that attacking piece of play and have space to perform that. So all in all, we our midfield was very compact, very composed, and very attacking minded today, which I love, because in the end it always pays off. You always get chances if you combine that with a bit of stability defensively. Then you're bound to have a good game and a good result.
And I know today wasn't a 4-3-3 performance, but we did get a look, Kevin, a really solid look at what a Loca, Thuram, Miretti midfield would look like. Is that one that encourages you?
Maybe. I don't. I guess it depends on whether it's a true 4-3-3 or if you're looking more at like a 3-5-2 in which you've got three midfielders with kind of flanked by wingers, because I think Miretti did well because he was further up the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're looking at a three-man midfield in a 4-3-3 where you're going to have someone deeper lying like a Locatelli, given the personnel we have, and two more like Mezzala box-to-box people, I don't know if you want that defensive work out of Miretti. So I think it could work as long as his expectation is to be a little bit higher up the pitch.
We've got Macedonia checking in the house as well. So we truly a fantastically international group of guests, and they've been very active. We see most recently Pino and Bohan, Mitch and Mikel continue to talk, as well as many others. Thank you for joining us here today. So we end the first half playing good football. Pretty much everybody doing their job, like Kevin says. We had 6 shots on goal, equaling our total for the entire game against Lecce in that first half. 4 of them were from Yildiz, who, despite not getting on the score sheet with goals or assists, was fantastic, in my opinion, that first half. And then the question I think every Juventini is asking at halftime is, what version of Juventus are we going to see come out the second half, especially considering we're only up 1-0 and we've been so inconsistent? And I think they came out with the right attitude, right, Frederic?
They did. To me, it was a reason of concern as well, because in any logic game, you should have been up at least 2 goals after that first half, and the fact that we didn't, felt a bit concerning to me. So I was very anxious to see how they would enter the pitch, but it looked as though they never left. It was basically the same style of play. I felt even more aggressive during, let's say, the 50th minute mark. More higher up, more pressing, especially from the wingers, which I liked. Evolving our formation into kind of like a hybrid one again. And I think it was intentional, and I think it clicked and it worked, because I'm gonna let Kevin fill the blanks here. We had a comeback, a revenge arc.
Yeah, it was the way that the second half started was pleased, but we've seen this story play out before way too many times when we have our 1-0 lead and we're playing well, but we're unable to capitalize on our chances, and they get either their only shot on goal, or they get a corner kick, or there's a handball in the box and they get a penalty, and we find ourselves at 1-1. And I was sitting with my good friend Luca watching this match, who made a really brief cameo on our last our last post game against Lecce. Just looking at each other, just please do not let this turn out to be one of those matches where we're dropping points against both Lecce and Sassuolo. But thankfully, and I know Zach, you'll want to unpack those goals in a bit more detail. the progressive style of play yielded results, and we walk away with a very nice result.
So let's go to the 60 to 65th minute block, because we saw some fantastic moments and two goals scored in slightly different ways, but both, I think, very meaningful to two players who really needed this, in my opinion. The first in the 62nd minute, Frederic's favorite player on our team, Di Gregorio, delivers a long ball to McKennie, who wins it, delivers it to David, who has the vision to see Miretti. And, gentlemen, we are faced with a breakaway. Now, we know our record with breakaways is not good. Kevin, did you expect Miretti to score? Let's be real. When you talk about Miretti, there's nothing he can do about how slow he is. And that dude is slow. You got like 3 defenders converging on him. He's running in molasses. Did you think he was going to miss this?
I did. I mean, how many breakaways have we joked about over the course of this season, and especially with Duzan having a few of them before his injury. Yeah.
And Chico had one recently. He missed all of them.
It was a nice finish. It was a tidy, kind of cheeky finish. I just, hats off to him. He was composed, took it well. His touches were nice. He kept it close to him. Didn't take too many touches, and I thought he controlled that well and delivered under some pressure. And I think, given what the team has been going through, and given the importance of getting the second goal, the continued mental weakness or lack of mental fortitude that has been exposed time and time again across this team, we're conditioned to expect them to kind of crave under or crash under pressure there for a bit. So he finished it well, and hats off to him.
Quick note to folks asking about some transfers in the chat. Frederic's health willing, we will do a short, quick hits at the very end of this episode. So stay tuned for that, folks. Curious about some of the transfer activity. Now, Frederic, to go back to the goal and Miretti himself, Chico does like to play out wide. I think Miretti's characteristics being more central and finding that space more centrally, that was core to him getting this goal, right? And do you think that his performance today could be the springboard on which he gets more game time from Spalletti, and that maybe he finds the growth to be a viable longer-term option for Juventus?
That's a question for Spalletti to answer, to be honest. If it were up to me, I wouldn't hesitate. I think Miretti offers so much more in terms of depth and quality. Comparing him to Conceição at this point. Conceição, for me, as I mentioned many times before, tutto fumo, niente arrosto. So a lot of thread, a lot of, but not the needed pizzazz that we need. And Miretti does that perfectly. Also, the fact that Miretti is very present in the center gives space to other wingers. And not only that, but he's technically so able to give like a nicely weighted through ball or even a shot or whatever. So you always have that imminent threat coming off of him. Whereas Chico, well, let's face it, like his moves are nearly identical. He tries to do the cutback thing, and every time, and if it doesn't renders in terms of goals or assists, then it's a bit of a nuisance in that respect. So I think for me, Miretti is somebody who offers way more depth, way more vision, way more technical ability, and way more pressure up forward. So do I think Spalletti will do it? It depends on if we get a midfielder in.
You're the scoop illusion right there. I
just feel if we have to make a choice right now between Conceição and Miretti, I know for a fact that Spalletti is a huge fan of Miretti as a player. Mm-hmm. So if he sees these kind of performances, that'll be hard to pass on. But on the other hand, if you get somebody in who's like a proper regista in that term, then who knows? There's a lot of talk about Miretti also leaving, and or at least having some requests. I'll get into that later, but for me, I'd pick Miretti over Conceição any day of the week.
Two things to follow that up. So I think if Chico is the preferred starter under Spalletti, let's assume that for a moment, and if he's not available, it should at least be a no-brainer that Miretti gets that spot and not Koopmeiners. I think we've seen like this, but this should be like Koopmeiners had that chance again. I forget, was it Pisa where he started there and was just like walking around with like cinder blocks tied to each of his shoes.
Yeah,
it just lost. So if Chico is the starter, and given his history of not being able to stay fit for more than 3 games in a row, Miretti should become the obvious replacement in that role. Should Miretti earn the right to be the preferred starter in that position, my concern is the lopsidedness of what our attack would be, in the sense that Kainon plays as this like hybrid winger / segunda punta and plays out wide and comes back in, and Miretti isn't that. What Yildiz has, he also has more of a natural wing back in Cambiaso. And for all the criticism we have for Cambiaso, they still have moments of good interplay of how they connect on the left side. That dynamic doesn't exist on the right side of the field if Miretti's playing. You get more of that with Conceição because he's more of a natural winger, and you have the width and the creativity in that width. So I don't. It might work against a weaker team like Sassuolo, but if you're playing top 4, top 5 sides, there'd just be inconsistency, I think, in the way that we move up the pitch.
That's if you keep our formation in a 4-3-3, and this is kind of what I'm alluding to before. You have him as the third midfielder. You have him shuttle basically left and right like he did today, just in a more advanced position. And then you have Chico out there. So you do have balance of threat, but he effectively functions more like a 10 or more advanced Matsala.
But in that scenario, you're benching McKennie then?
Well, then that's the question. I mean, frankly, I wouldn't.
I don't think Spalletti's doing that.
Way McKennie's playing, I would put him at left back over Cambiaso. But that we don't need to get into. Tactical dominoes. I mean, it's a fair question though of if you do go 4-3-3 and Chico and a true winger is going to start, which I think is inevitable. Do you play knowing that Kalulu is going to be right back? Do you play Miretti over McKennie?
Well,
or maybe kick Thuram to the curb,
You can't bench a player who's not even with the squad anymore.
Okay, Frederic, just get to the point. Okay.
No, I mean that there's a realistic chance that McKennie, I'm not saying in January, but at least at the end of the season will leave.
Okay.
You need to have a backup then. If Miretti is your backup McKennie and you get somebody in to give a more supportive role in midfield.
Yeah, but we're trying to finish the season here, not field a team that we want continuity going into next fall, right?
Yeah.
Regardless if McKennie leaves in the summer or not, that's not going to
no
start.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly don't know, because I think if I'm Spalletti and I'm in his shoes, I'd already start making up my playbook about the players that I need, that I want to keep, and which I want to attribute certain responsibilities to. And if you know for a certain point that McKennie is on his way out and you have somebody who can substitute or fill in for him and has maybe even more of a learning curve, I don't know.
I think to kind of close the Miretti discussion and then get to the third goal. When he burst onto the scene a couple years ago, I think we were all very impressed with his positioning. He just has this innate ability to find pockets of space and his extremely tidy passing. I think the issues with ready that he can't solve. It's just how freaking slow he is. He had questionable balance in bouncing off pressure. And he didn't seem to have a lot of certainty with what to do with the ball in the attacking third, which led to, as y'all alluded to, sort of more negative passing. What was really nice to see today is exactly what Kevin said, is at least that last bit, lifting up his head and bringing the ball forward, that goes a long way to make a player who has such good positioning and work rate that he does, to make them extremely vital. Because you don't need all the other things. If you can be in the right place at the right time and deliver the right ball, it doesn't really matter, right, Kevin?
Yeah, and I just want to see consistency, right? I just want to
Yeah.
see a level of consistency, and I think that's been a challenge, right? And I feel that there's, especially with Miretti, there's a bit of a Groundhog's Day, if I can use that analogy. If people are familiar with the movie, just kind of waking up and experiencing the same day over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
It's we get a game where he shows spark and he shows verticality and he shows movement and understanding space and anticipation of where the ball should go before he touches it, right? Which can't be said of a lot of our players. And then you get 2 or 3 games where he's either back on the bench for whatever reason and he comes on for 20 minutes and does nothing, or he starts again and it's just not the same electricity.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see some consistency. I mean,
Yeah.
we see performances that command the reaction we're all having now. Look at our chat right now.
Yeah.
Everybody's singing his praises, understandably so. It was a very nice match.
I have
to see consistency.
I have a small story to tell about a dialogue between Miretti and Spalletti.
All right, new segment, story time with Frederic. All right, let's go.
No,
Everybody
so
sit in a
Spalletti,
half circle and cross your legs.
Yeah, cross your legs, hands to yourself.
one of the last training sessions, Spalletti went to Miretti and asked him, "Do you feel that you're at at least 70% of your capabilities right now?" And Miretti said, "Yeah, I think I am." And Spalletti replied, "Good, then you'll start tomorrow."
Well, I think, and that was story time with Frederic.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, if this is 70% of Miretti, or a tad above that, then one can only imagine under Spalletti's cure and under Spalletti's wings what he can do if he regains, 100% of his abilities or fitness.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we're all hoping for at this point.
And there's some time before our next game. I think our next game's Monday, so almost an entire week.
Yeah.
And I think what everyone is saying in chat would be mostly agreed from what we've been saying, is that he has a good performance. Let him play the next game. Let him build on that. Don't sit him on the bench and kill his momentum, just like the goal scorer that we're going to talk about next. Okay, you played him probably because of all the stories from last game. Well, he had a fantastic game. Don't sit him back on the bench. Let him build on that. So that leads us into the third goal of the game. Frederic's equivalently favorite player to D-Gray, Locatelli, sprays a long ball towards the touchline. Double agent Muharamovic makes an absolute meal of it. He is being pressured by David, but a lame pass back. David pounces on it. And Kevin, we have our second breakaway of the day. Surely we're not going to go 2 for 2 in breakaways. Were you just praying he buried it?
Yes, but the predominant thought going through my mind was he's going to take too many touches and not even get a shot off.
Well, he did the first part. He did take a lot of touches.
He did take a lot of touches, but it was a cool finish. Like he did that. That was, I think, kind of the Iceman that we expected to see. I would have loved for him to have that composure when he stepped up to take the penalty last Saturday, if you can even call it a penalty attempt. But credit to him, right? He he had a nice match, and I'm sure, I don't know if you want to get into David's overall performance now.
I'm sure we
but
will
credit to
in the man of
him
the match. Time. Yeah.
Yeah, just credit to him. And I'm sure that he knew what was said about him in the media. I'm sure it was pretty hard to avoid what the newspapers were calling for and what was on social media. And hopefully he was smart to avoid as much of that as possible. Good to see his teammates sticking up for him, and Spalletti as well, and come out and just get the job done, picking up an assist, picking up a goal with a cool finish, and just overall good interplay. I mean, he missed a couple chances too, especially the one that followed immediately after
Yeah,
the
that
goal.
one was
We could be
that one was come on.
Yeah, we could be talking about a brace right now, but it was really, really nice to see the team celebrate him, and hopefully we're having more of a unified squad compared to some of the cliques or kind of just various groups that may or may not have been forming earlier this season.
Frederic, what did you make of the team's celebration with David after he scores this goal?
I think it was a fair showing of the team standing close to him, but it was also pretty obvious after the post-game comments from Lecce, where Bremer, McKennie, and Spalletti defended David. And I think if you put in that amount of work by defending one of your own, and you see him get pretty much hammered across media,
Mm-hmm.
and for him to pull out a comeback like today, and put the crown on the work with the goal that he scored, I think that automatically boosts not only Jonathan David's ego and confidence, but of the whole squad, saying that this is something that we worked for. This is a bit of our work that's being crowned now, and I think that gives off very good vibes to a locker room. And you could also tell by Spalletti's reaction in the press, and even today with him celebrating as well, that he's somebody who really counts on David and really sees something in him. And of course, we're fans. We have the right to judge. We pay a lot of money to see our team and buy merchandise and whatever. But at the end of the day, we're not the people that see him in practice every day.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone like Bremer says that, he's very difficult to defend against in training, coming from Bremer, I have to believe that, and I have to, have a little faith that he is somebody who can make a difference. So let's hope for the best. But it's still just one game. We need consistency, especially up front.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that he can, re-acknowledge himself in the coming games. But he's got a confidence and ego boost, and I think that is something that is very good to have in the course of one game that's just passed now. So it's a win-win for both of us.
I thought it was an absolutely amazing moment. Good for him. I think it was good for the team. Just like you said, they all backed him, and this is him giving back to himself, the team, and the fans. If I don't know if it was, did y'all heard it from your feed? I know Kevin was in a bar, so I don't know if he could hear the feed very well, but from mine, it sounded like there was a roar from the fans when he scored and got that third. Frederic, who is quite ill, is nodding through his muted mic. But I thought, like, at least that's what I heard, and I don't think I was making that up. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard a roar from the Juve corner from my feed, and I thought it just was a great moment for everybody involved.
Yeah, he even got applauded when he was subbed.
Yeah, nice, and it was deserved. We're going to talk man of the match in just a few minutes here after we talk about Spalletti's comments, and I'm sure he's going to be brought up by one of us. Some people's in the chat. Zvortverk says he heard the same thing. All right, I know Kevin has pulled up Spalletti's comments. What did he have to say after today's game?
Yeah, the team worked well when Sassuolo tried to build out from the back. We prevented them ever having superiority in the midfield, though, of course, this means running some risks when defending. We have some very strong defenders and can afford that. He must be referring to Coop Miners. But when what made the difference was dominating the game. So when Sassuolo did attack, they were tired and had been chasing us around, so they weren't that effective. At times, we even played without a center forward, as David would drop back and create the space for Miretti to run into. So they did that very well, and I completely agree. He goes on to indicate that the last two performances have been great, but we still need to understand certain things and do it as quickly as possible, because there are times when our attitude is no better than the bare minimum. That's an interesting comment there. We tend to only show 80% of our capability and no more. We don't go determined enough into the challenges. We had 3 or 4 corners where we didn't even manage to get into the box. When you are away from home, you can't be so wasteful, as we have players who are so good in the air and they aren't getting the service on set plays.
I mean, he touched on a lot of really good things there. I mean, one, from a positive standpoint.
Sorry, I started laughing at the next thing that he said, but we can hold on to
Go
that.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Well,
give it to us now.
So I guess he was teased around the comment that he made when questioned around David not being invited to dinner, and famously, of course, saying, well, yeah, he put Parmigiano Reggiano on spaghetti alla vongole, which is the cardinal sin in Italian food, putting cheese on a fish pasta. And just curious if the team has changed their mind about inviting him. And he goes, we always have it now. We enjoyed his intuitive cuisine in creating new dishes.
It's a little bit of a media masterclass, the way Spalletti has handled those rumors as well. But from a technical and tactical standpoint, he said a lot of what we said. One, the ability to choke out the midfield. Sassuolo did not have a shot on goal until the 84th minute, where Di Gregorio did what he needed to do as a goalkeeper and making a few nice saves. But also, it's not just the midfield. Let's talk about those strong defenders just really quick, because for much of the match they didn't have too much to do. Obviously, we talked Kalulu's contribution to the goal. And by the way, if that wasn't an own goal, then David would have a goal and 2 assists today. But why don't we speak about sort of the Bremer, Frederic, the Bremer, Coop, Kalulu backline real quickly in a game where they didn't have to do too much. They did the job, right? They did the job asked of them with aplomb.
Yeah, they did the job, and I was kind of a bit fearful because my man Lloyd Kelly wasn't there. And for me, if you look at the form Kelly's been having, and you have to, and you can't count on him for a certain game, then you have to put Koopmeiners in there. Then it's a bit overwhelming at times. But Koop did fair. But in the defense of everybody who played in defense today, it was an easy game in terms of the fact that our midfield worked so hard to tire everybody from Sassuolo out. By the end that they reached our box or had an opportunity to counterattack, they were just that tired. So all you needed to do basically was mark your man and shield the ball off with your body, and that was job done. So it was one of the easier games for our defenders, but they kept their focus, because that's the biggest pitfall you can have in games like these, that when it goes a bit too easy, you tend to lose concentration and focus. And that wasn't the case. I only saw Bremer playing a back ball to Di Gregorio, which wasn't the best of back passes that I've seen. But other than that, they were flawless. So, once again, hats off to them. And the fact that we keep a clean sheet is something to be very pleased about, because there were times when keeping a clean sheet seemed like a distant dream.
Yeah, Zach,
go ahead.
So just on Spalletti's comments, the thing that I really liked about what he said was bringing up the areas of improvement, because I think it would have been really easy for him to come out and just commend the team on a well-deserved victory and a good all-around performance. Because again, I reiterate, in this span of 8 wins now in 10 matches, the only relatively straightforward win was that Coppa Italia win against Udinese. Every other win was challenging, and we suffered. And this was the first one that we didn't really, I mean, it wasn't the cleanest of starts in the first 5 minutes, but generally speaking, like, we dominated this game from beginning to end. But immediately going to, hey, this still isn't good enough. We're only at 80%. We're not going into challenges hard enough. We're not doing well in the air, and being very critical. And I think as a fan, I love to hear that. I love to hear that this is not good enough and we need to keep going. So I know it's just the post-match comments, and take them for what they are. But as a fan, I like to hear this mentality.
I want you to build on this a little bit further, Kevin, because I think we all agree we play down to our opposition, and that's why we struggle against these lower table teams, but then we have frequently pulled out these wonderful performance, except against the Napoli game, against top tier teams. Spalletti came into a tough situation. He, thin squad, underperforming. Juventus was 7th in the table. First few games were tough. He's had the David scandal with the pasta and cheese, the David penalty situation, the Dusan injury, with 2 strikers who weren't doing much. He's had to deal with a lot. And potentially in this month, a cash-strapped team that has limited in bringing in reinforcements. What has his influence been on this Juventus team? And as we sit here at the midpoint, does Spalletti have you optimistic that we're going to reach our sporting goals this year?
I'm incredibly, incredibly optimistic about what Spalletti has done with this side in a relatively short period of time. What I have more concern about is he going to get the appropriate players for us to take advantage of an opportunity to do more this season, or even just going into next season being able to compete outright for the Scudetto. And there's 2 things in it for me. One, Spalletti's had an incredibly long career. He's experienced. There's nothing that he's really seeing here that he hasn't gone through or experienced in a worse scenario. So his ability to handle this with experience, with the level head, know what to say, both internally with the players and externally to the media, to either brush it off, take the pressure off, or just address it in a professional manner, is something that Tudor doesn't have because of his inability to finish seasons with teams, that Malta didn't have because he had never coached at that level before, and certainly didn't have the experience. So Spalletti's coming in to a challenging situation where this is not the most challenging situation he's likely ever faced in his career. So that allows him to confront this just with more credibility and just more potential to get through it. The second is, I think he spoke the truth when he indicated that he saw potential in this team, and he would not have taken the less than a full year contract without believing that there was something in this team and he would earn the right to extend and have a longer term contract. So he had a vision. And I think every single one of us listening to this in audio format or joining us here on YouTube can admit that you see the impact of this coach in the product that's on the field. There is much more proactive play. It's cohesive play. What does let us down is some poor finishing, some bad crosses, and some individual mistakes that Spalletti can't control. There's a quality issue within the team, but you see the exact same players who struggled to put passes together, who struggled to find space, who struggled to control games, being able to do that now. And so we are seeing the impact of him. So that does have me excited that with a relatively mediocre Juve side in context of what we know this squad should be, I think there's a lot to be excited about, but we're going to need to make some changes in personnel. There's no question.
Frederic, one word. Answer the question on the screen. Do you think Spalletti has earned an extension? Yes or no?
Fuck yes.
Oh, well, that's two. Okay, can't follow instructions. All right.
Yes.
Now, yeah,
Virtual high five, Frederic.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
so
I mean,
yeah.
I saw this coming when they signed Spalletti, not in the sense that I was very confident that he would bring something to us, that he would improve us, but not in this shape already. I honestly thought that he would need until March, April before we got to see the Spalletti hand in our play and our style. He's done that much sooner with very limited personnel because some of these players are subpar. That's just a fact. If you want to compete, then these are not the players you compete with. But he's pulling everything they have out of them and making it work in a very modern, agonistic, and even attackingly oiled football. So to me, after having Allegri, Motta, Tudor all failing miserably, and then having somebody comes in on the fly after a bad international experience, and receives a very, very stupid contract, in my opinion, because no coach in their right mind would, at that point, even dare to take on Juventus, let alone in that short time span. That gave me a lot of courage, a lot of hope, and he's every week that I see Spalletti talk and I see his team execute what he wants to see executed on the pitch, it just gets better and better. We're so used to downward spirals and ups and downs for the last couple of years that having something with a bit of consistency and a bit of a straight line going right up is something that for me is very good to see. The one thing I do hope, if they extend him and if he chooses to stay with us, that they please follow his instructions in the summer on the transfer market, because I'm going to die on this hill. We have a lot of overvalued players that cannot render us competitive for the serious prizes.
Yeah, I think a collaborative Spalletti Comoli work is the only recipe for success. Not just Comoli coming and instituting.
Yeah.
All right, let's
move.
Let's
the
move.
people
go ahead,
and
Kevin.
just sorry, real quick. I know there's some voices in our YouTube chat here, and I've even heard our dear friend Uncle Beppe indicate that there's no need to renew him now. That just because we still don't know what's going to happen between now and the end of the season. This might be a blip. This might there might be other options for us. I vehemently disagree and agree with Frederic's take. That the only other thing I would add to it is, by doing it now, the team, the management would be forcing themselves to think in an aligned way. Because if it's a given that Spalletti is there over the summer going into next year, or even a 2-year contract, whatever that would be, you're forcing the joint discussions on what this team should be, what the priorities are, and you're working on it together. If you're not committing to him and you're leaving the door open for other options, then you're just adding further complexity to building out a team and an identity that's going to work with a manager. So make the commitment so you can have some continuity in this club.
Also for Spalletti himself, I think, he bowed his head down to Juventus management by accepting a very, let's say, discussable contract. He's proven a lot in those last couple of months. I think the least you could do is honor him back. And you'll have that with any coach who doesn't perform. At the end, they'll have to leave. And if we bring in Maresca, Farioli, I don't know all the names that have been mentioned, and they don't do their work, they don't perform, they'll be out of the picture as well. So in that respect, it doesn't change anything. But now that we found somebody who's so aligned with our values, our morals, and the way we want to play, I just don't see any reason for it to stall. This could be another positive boost for the dressing room, for Spalletti himself, and maybe for the whole of management, because you have a new sporting director coming in. At least that guy now knows, hey, this is my coach next season. I'm gonna have to work closely with him, and not being, in the unbeknownst of who's gonna be here next season, what player should I focus on or whatever. So it to me, all I see is positives, but.
And guys, we will get Maresca eventually. There's no doubt in my mind that he will coach Juve at some point. But he's either going to follow Darren Fletcher after filling in for Amorim, who just left going into United, or he'll probably replace Pep if he leaves at the end of this season. But we're not getting Maresca now, but he will coach Juve at some point.
Let's move on from Spalletti and other coaches, and let's get back to the program. We have to do what we do almost every episode. We didn't in Lecce because I was just so grumpy. But that is talk about our man of the match, or as we do it here,
I have a very big testicles.
The big balls man of the match. Kevin, we're going to start with you. I think there are a few guys we've discussed today worthy of the mantle. Who are you giving it to, and why?
I'm really torn. I'm really torn between two players, but I'm going to go with David because he faced just a lot of adversity, deservedly so. Right, a professional. This is his job, right, and wasn't doing it and not living up to the expectations, not living up to his pay, not living up to the moment, not living up to what it means to be a center forward for the most storied club in Serie A. He had a right to be criticized, and he ruined my trip to the Allianz last Saturday. So, but look, people who are able to overcome adversity, keep a level head, keep their head down, and do the only thing you can do is just tackle the next challenge or opportunity in front of you. And he did just that, right? Even without the goal, which he desperately needed, it was still a good performance, right? Especially with the assist. And if it had ended there, an assist and a good all-around performance where he worked hard for the team, created spaces for Miretti, was a part of a good link-up play, that would have just been a good professional outing. Credit to him. There's a lot of other players, I think, that performed well against, again, what was inevitably a pretty weak Sassuolo side. But credit to David, and I just hope it continues and that this isn't just a flash in the pan, just reaction to the adversity faced against Lecce. But let's see what happens against is it Cremonese next Monday?
Yep. David, 1 goal, 1 assist. He had the assist to Kalulu on the own goal as well. 28 of 33 passing, third on the team in defensive contributions as well. And to be honest, when we signed him over the summer and Frederic and I did our scoop review, and I was really excited to have David on a team, today's was the type of performance that I envisioned him bringing, being able to really link up and play way better than Dusan ever could, but popping up with assists and poacher-like goals. And so I think he's absolutely worthy of man of the match today. Frederic,
but the ding is missing that opportunity right afterwards.
Yep.
I mean, he should have had the brace, and that was disappointing because that was hard. I don't know how he pulled that over the bar from 6 yards out. Like, that should have been 2 goals, but doesn't take away from the other positive contributions. But I would have liked to see him composed in that moment.
It was a bad miss, but I like, for me at least, that doesn't change his contribution to today's game. And I agree, give him a run. If you after this performance, you have to start him in the next one. Frederic, Del Piero 109 is convinced that you're going to say D. Gray was our man of the match. Who are you taking?
Absolutely not D. Gray. It's Miretti. by all of accounts of all the things that I spoke about Miretti in the beginning of the spot. I think he was crucial in our link-up play between midfield and forwards, something that we missed a couple of games. I think he was crucial also with that 2-0 because it wasn't an easy chance to finish off. A lot of people were thinking that he was going to miss it, regardless. But the way he composed himself, and I just look back at a small clip, he, was very confident. He checked for people in the box. There weren't any, so he took his chance. He was very level-headed, very mature, and for me, he was the missing link. I'm also not gonna, contradict Kevin here because he's right in all parts. But for lack of another option, I have to go with Miretti. I'm curious to see who you're gonna pick, Zach. Is it gonna be Miretti or David?
No, I'm going to pick neither. I was torn. A part of me really, I feel like sometimes we ignore the defenders when they play really well, and then every once in a while we're like, oh yes, by the way, Kelly's been really good or Kalulu's been really good. Kalulu, I was tempted to say him, and he's just been, I think, next to Kelly, just so consistent, so solid. What he's played, I believe, every single minute this year, which is just astronomically valuable considering the injuries that we've had. I was tempted to say Tariq Muharamovic, sleeper agent, contribute 2 goals, a goal and an assist in our favor, and maybe lessen the price if we were to pick him back up. And he has been, other than today, generally pretty good this year. But I'm going to go with Locatelli. I have been a fervent Locatelli defender for people who have watched this program as well. Yes, Kevin as well. Either this program or when we fight with Beppe and Frederic on our Thursday spot on Bepe's show. Fervent Locatelli defender. His contributions today from a passing presence, vision, defensive contributions as well was just sort of a complete midfielder performance. I know Frederic doesn't like the fact that he wasn't aggressive in the attacking third, but everything he did to support our play, win balls back in the midfield, suffocate any Sassuolo progression, to recycle possession back to guys who could make a difference, I feel needs to be lauded. So my man of the match today was Locatelli.
You're absolutely right. I think those were the top 3 today, especially in the second half. To piggyback a bit on your statement, Zach. Thought Locatelli was very good in the second half, especially because I think he found the confidence with Miretti and the link-up play with Miretti that was needed. It was a bit more, dare I say, awkward in the first half, but then they linked up really well. You saw David making extremely good runs and holding up the ball a bit. So Locatelli for me was one of the people that really shined today, and I think that's good for him because he gets a lot of criticism, sometimes deserved, sometimes not so much. But to be back at his ex-team and deliver a performance like that must feel good for any player. So hats off to the 3 of them.
Yeah. We'll finish this bit. So to David, to Miretti, and to Locatelli.
I have a very big testicles.
Alrighty, I think. I clicked it again. I was that.
They have
excited.
4 testicles now.
Yeah, I was that excited to click it again. Whoops. I think we can kind of sign off on it. We're over an hour in. Let's kind of bring a couple things this game to a close. We want to talk a couple things moving forward, and then we'll end with, as Mohammed has said, scoop information. Hold on just a few more minutes. We're going to close out a couple of things. So first and foremost is, with the big win today, Juventus has moved back into 4th place on the table, even with points with Roma, but ahead in goal differential, which is the first tiebreaker. So we are in 4th. And this game completes our first half of the Serie A season. And this week we will be recording it's Black and White, one of our shows as part of Turin Giants, where Frederic has been challenged by one of our members, Jack, on the evaluation of the first half of our season. We will be recording that later this week. So stay tuned for that, where they discuss, debate, and get into whether this first half of the season has been a success or not. So stay tuned to that. Don't want to discuss it here. No spoilers as to that episode. I know Frederic is in the hyperbolic time chamber training and getting ready to take Jack on, and I know Jack is doing the same. And in the chat, for folks who have seen one of our first 3 episodes of If It's Black and White, and whether this core can lead us back to success, whether it's time to move on from Cambiaso, or whether John Elkann should sell the team, please, for those live, put your thoughts in the comments. We love feedback. Please give it to us. Folks listening after the fact, go to those videos, put it in the comments. We do review those, and that does help us sort of rethink and refine how we approach some of these shows and segments. And please look forward to the release of that episode coming out soon. Now, Kevin, going to you, looking ahead, we're in the second of 4 easy games. I'm using air quotes to those listening because there are no easy games. We've got the draw Lecce win, of course, against Sassuolo today, and we've got Cremonese on Monday the 12th, and then Cagliari on Saturday the 17th, who are 13th and 14th in the table, respectively. Is this 6 points or bust?
Cremonese, we will win. Cagliari away is always tricky.
Yeah, it is.
It's tricky. I think we need to win, but slipping up there would not surprise me. We need to win. I mean, look at what's happening behind us. I mean, we're level with Roma on points. Como's 3 points behind us with a game in hand, although that game is against Milan. So they could beat Milan. Como's on an incredible run of form right now, but Milan just doesn't lose. I think they only have 1 loss this season. I mean, that's Allegri football. And that was the first match of the season, right? It was against Cremonese that they lost.
Yeah.
Or did they draw that? No, they lost.
No, they
right?
lost because Vardy's on Cremonese, right? And I think he scored a brace.
Yeah, and then they haven't lost since. So but it's especially with what we have after that, right? And I know everybody has their eye on the Napoli match, of course, since the 3 of us will be there in the flesh together, which will be amazing. But following that, we have Parma, then Atalanta, Lazio, Inter, Como, Roma. Like that is an insane run of games. And so to answer your question directly, Cremonese Cagliari, yes, it's a must-win 6 points, but the Cagliari test will be difficult.
I was gonna get you on that, Kevin. And to answer the question, yeah, in light of the schedule, it's and don't forget, after Cagliari, we've got the 2 final group stage Champions League games flanking the Napoli, and those are games we can't ignore because of where we are in the table. We got to get points from those games in order to ensure that we advance from both a sporting and a financial perspective. And for the one individual,
do people really appreciate that? Aside from Parma kind of being in the blip there, but Napoli, Parma, Atalanta, Lazio, Inter, Como, Roma in a row. That is crazy.
It's brutal. I mean, it fits in a pocket, though. It fits in a pocket after those Champions League games where, yes, there'll be the I don't know if the Atalanta game you're referring to is the Copa game or not, but
you know what? You're right. It is. Yeah. It is Copa. My mistake. But
so there will be some prep time for those. Unlike the Napoli game, which will have those Champions League games flanking it. But it's a tough run. That's why this is 6 points. and I agree with
Oh,
you.
you're probably hoping that was like a 10-second answer, and I
Yeah,
turned it into 4 minutes.
I kind of was, but I appreciated the feedback. It was very detailed, Kevin. I would never shut you up. Speaking of never shutting anybody up, we're going to turn over to Frederic. We are going to kick off a short, brief, sort of Frederic scoop monologue as to a couple
Not a
of things.
monologue.
Well,
I'm gonna lean. I'm gonna lean on you guys on the chat for some because
yeah.
my phone's, just to give a bit of context. My phone's been buzzing all day. I dragged my ass to work sick, which was already very, let's say, how shall I put this? It was difficult for me. So I had to choose between giving energy to my pupils or giving energy to my contacts. I chose pupils. I chose poorly. Didn't have any time to prepare. So I'm, I'm gonna, just see what questions come about. I'm scrolling to my text right
Oh,
now. So hopefully I
I'll
can
have a few for you, Frederic. We'll help you out. I know my man's on. He's got a temperature. He's struggling a little bit. Before we get into that, I just want to let everyone know, for those who do love the scoop, we will be shortly receiving our shipment of scoop shirts, and I'm pumped because Frederic and I love doing it. We're going to have scoop shirts that we can wear on those episodes, and you can get one too if that's something that's interested you. That they'll be on our website, and I'm really pumped to share that with you, Frederic, and as well as anybody who's interested in getting some scoop merch. You can check that out at turingiants.com. Alrighty, we're going to start with the news. I think a lot of people have been talking about and wondering about Chiesa. When you read some of these tweets and look at some of these posts, it almost sounds like it's a done deal. Frederic, will you please cut through the noise and let us know what the real status is of any potential Chiesa arrival?
It is far from a done deal. I texted that to Kevin, I think yesterday or the day before, in our group chat. It's far from a done deal. Why is it far from a done deal? Juventus are open to having him on a loan. Liverpool want to give him on a loan, but also want an obligation worth more or less 11, 12 million. Chiellini is very pro. Spalletti wouldn't mind. Ottolini is very hesitant. Liverpool's playing hardball. They want to, gain the most. They want to, get the books in balance. So they essentially want to get back what he paid for, what they paid for him, and it's going to be a difficult one. It's not done as in done. So we'll see what happens, but I don't know. It could change like every other 5 minutes, but for now it's a stalemate. And from what I'm hearing, Ottolini is not impressed by bringing Chiesa back, not even for 6 months. Ottolini spoke with Comoli and said, if we have to buy players, then we need to buy players that have an impact on the squad and not just buy for the sake of buying. I'd rather buy nobody in this mercato and buy the players we need and can contribute something in the summer. So I don't know where the power struggle, it's going to be a bit of a discussion, but we'll see. I can imagine that if Liverpool says you can have him on a straight dry loan, then Juventus surely will take him by just covering a salary fee. If that doesn't happen, it's going to be a tough battle.
So, for those asking where he would fit in the squad, I think there is some level of priority on getting a Vice Yildiz, which is what the role Chiesa would fill. Is that the highest priority for the team, or is it still midfielder?
The highest priority at this point, and it's a guy that's not been talked about a lot, just some things when we talked about him and in the media, but it's Senesi. Juventus are desperate to sign him already.
Center back.
Yeah, at least in February, so that they have him as their first official summer transfer. It's a name that Ottolini's been following for some time, also somebody that impresses Comoli. So I think they're trying to make the best of that situation and have a proper, because Senesi, in my opinion, is a really gifted center back. from the things I saw of him, and to get him on a free transfer, I think would be amazing, both financially as in the elevation of quality that you have him back. So from what I've been told, they're working behind the scenes now to get him in just for the summer. It's not going to happen in January.
Mm.
We proposed, we tried, but it's a firm no under no circumstances. So we'll get him in, or try to get him in. And then, of course, the midfielder. A lot of talk about Guido.
Yeah, I was going to ask
Uh,
about that one because that we reported it on the scoop, and it's sort of still been buzzing around a little bit, and it's kind of confusing to get a 31-year-old midfielder who's not playing right now,
no,
not playing for a almost relegation tier EPL team.
yeah, he's the backup of the backup. Basically, if we want to sign him, everything's done. It could be done in 5 minutes, but he's not number one on our list for midfielders right now. Also, Ottolini once again not being not being very optimistic about him as a player. But our first name on the list is Schlager.
Oh,
Austrian
you
midfielder.
just made Mitch in our chat, who is Austrian as well. So happy
Ah,
to hear
have
that.
a look. Yeah.
He's been saying, what about before we get about that, I wanted to get Kevin, and I know we moved on from Chiesa a few names ago, but I wanted to ask Kevin a short question. Would you welcome, or would you want, of course, if Chiesa rejoined, we would all welcome probably, but would you want him to come back to Juventus, or is that chapter closed in your book?
Heart says yes, head says no, and I think where we are right now, we need to follow the head.
There we go. And I got to be honest, I agree with you 100%. All right, we stalled slightly to build up the Schlager rumors. Frederic, where do we stand on him? And we haven't had him on the scoop. I think we did once, maybe over in the fall or in the
Yeah.
in the late.
Yeah.
I think we've had him, but not in the last few that we've had. So when has that kind of come back on the plate, and where do we stand on it?
Well, Juve are very interested in him. He's interested in Juve. It's not so much of a negotiation thing. It's more of setting priorities now. Because, like I said, and it's going to be the same in the summer, if somebody leaves or comes in, somebody has to leave, and vice versa. So we're trying to see what we can do right now. We had the Fratesi name, which was a real name, as I said as well, a name that was requested by Spalletti. That's a bit more difficult now, so it offers us to explore other options. The thing is now with the coming of Ottolini still has to sign off as well. So I would expect that a lot of things could change very sharpishly, and I'm not so sure that we are going to primarily invest now in January. We'll look for some occasions that can strengthen up our squad and bring a bit more depth to the squad. The names that I'm hearing, especially for summer, to be realistic, I don't want to give anybody false hope, but the two main targets are Senesi and Bernardo Silva still.
But I mean, Schlager, his contract expires in the summer as well. Are you, and forgive me, I was just verifying when his contract did expire when you were talking. Forgive me if you answered this, but is he a summer only option, or would he be something that you think we could squeak in here this month if somebody were to leave?
I think we could squeak him in, but the thing is, we have limited budget, and I think we're trying to now be a bit proactive summer wise. I think that if we could get for a Schlager and a Senesi already, then a lot of that could be done. Then you have your groundwork all set up for you. So we'll see what happens. Then the Tonali thing, well, it's not a rumor, it's not a thing. Tonali is a name that we're interested in, but the price is.
What would he cost?
crazy.
What would he cost? He went for 80 million from Milan, more or less.
At least 80.
And that was what 2-3 years ago, though.
Yeah,
because he
at
sat
least.
out the
His
year.
value's gone up.
Yeah, it has, and not to mention, his salary is not of the least either, because we always forget that part within transfers, and a transfer is evaluated in your balance sheet with the salary included. So it might be that a Tonali would be an investment worth 130 million euros. I'm not sure we're going to dive into that.
No, we should.
Sassuolo
That's
for
not. That's
just
not a
one.
Kamoli. Yeah, that's not a Kamoli transfer. And let's be real, we've gotten burned too many times. If we made
Also,
that deal, I would flip the table.
and a lot of depends on the fact we're going to get a UEFA fine for breaking the financial fair play. That's something that's going to happen, but the amount will say a lot, because Juventus lawyers are very confident it will be around the 10 to 12 million mark. A lot of sources are now saying that it could, end up being a 50 to 60 million euro fine. So, yeah.
That's absurd.
So,
That's absurd. Well, I think the short of it is, ladies and gentlemen, as to transfers at least, and I don't know about fines, but at least on transfers, stay tuned to the scoop. Frederic and I will be health willing and time willing, sprinkling those in throughout this month to keep you up to date. We'll try to do those live as much as we can because we love getting your questions in. Stay tuned to future episodes of It's Black and White. For those who love the scoop, we're gonna get some shirts in. So if you like it and want to support us and help pay for this, all the subscriptions that we maintain out of our own pocket, then buy it because that helps. But other than that, Kevin, Frederic, it's after midnight for you guys. So thank you. We'll let you go. Everyone in chat, as I applauded earlier, from all over the globe, thank you for hanging out with us wherever you are. We know that time is precious, and you spend it with us means the world. So thank you all. We will see you again, whether it be in any of those aforementioned programs on Bepe's Thursday show or after Cremonese. And we look forward to seeing you then. And until that time, for everybody, as always, Forza Juve.